Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kinda Funny Games Daily for Wednesday, January 19th, 2022. I'm your host, Blessing Adeoye Jr. Joining me is twitch.tv/Andy Cortez.
My camera is finally clear, more clear than it has been in the last, 2 weeks or something like that. It's been so blurry, and a lot of people have been wondering, does Blessing have a better camera than everybody? Or does Greg's camera looks better than everybody's? No, it's just a Discord connection issue. I guess it looks better now.
I keep saying we can switch to Google Hangouts. There's no reason why we can't switch. Isn't that right, Kevin?
The quality is worse.
Oh, okay. The quality is worse. What are you eating,
breakfast?
What you eating, Kev?
What you eating?
A little yogurt.
Some granola and some yogurt.
Getting the belly health up right there, Kev.
Yeah, they're working on that gut biome.
There we go.
I mixed it up.
There it is. Hey, you got there in the end. You got there in the end. It's funny because like this morning I was thinking about breakfast, and usually what I do, I think we talked about this literally last week, that I do my Starbucks run where I'm looking mad crusty in that Starbucks, but I go there to get the iced coffee and the warmed butter croissant. And this morning, as I was putting together the show, there's so much news, and so we should probably get there sooner than later. But there's so much news today that as I was putting shit together, I was like, I am not gonna have time to go to the Starbucks to actually get my breakfast. And so what I did, instead of going to Starbucks, I opened up my fridge. I had some leftover chicken that I just warmed up. I got myself some tea instead of some coffee. I'm pretty chill today, Andy. I'm feeling pretty chill.
I'm glad you are, Blessing, because I had a terrible morning. My Starbucks gets here at 9:20 a.m. and there's liquid all over my front porch. It's just,
oh no,
it is just leaked everywhere. I look at the staircase and it is just leading up the whole staircase. I look in the bag is full of just coffee everywhere. It's gone. It's destroyed. I got my refund though. And I wonder if they look at my past history and go, no, you know what? We can trust this guy.
I think about that often because I use DoorDash. I have Dash Pass and I love using DoorDash, but I think I use DoorDash so much that the rate for error just goes up to where now, like, there probably been 7 or 8 different times where I've had to request a refund because of a missing item or because they grabbed the wrong order or something went wrong. And of course, this is 7 out of possibly hundreds of times within the last couple of years of the pandemic and how much I've been ordering DoorDash. But it's that thing of the 7th time, I was like, fuck, man, like, are they going to believe me this time? Like, is this the time where they're like, you've done this 6 times before. Like, are you scamming us? I get worried about it.
That's a little thing called anxiety right there, Bless. I also recently got some kudos from Uber Eats because they basically gave me my Spotify Wrapped for the year. And they're like, hey, you're in the top 1% of orders from Volcano Curry. Way to go. And I'm just like, no, that's not. I don't want to.
I didn't want to know that.
I feel like shit now, so don't ever let me know that ever again. Thank you very much.
God damn that! I feel that pain, Andy. I know that pain. Andy, do you know what else I know?
What do you know
that yesterday was a huge news day, and also today's a very big news day because we're coming off of yesterday's news and the aftermath of yesterday's news. So we have no time to waste. Let's talk about today's stories, which include follow-ups and fallout from the Activision acquisition, Rainbow Six extraction reviews, and more, because this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday at 10 a.m. live right here on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. If you're watching live, you can correct us when we get stuff wrong by going to kindafunny.com/you're wrong. If you don't want to watch live, you can watch later on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or you can listen later on podcast services around the globe by searching for Kinda Funny Games Daily. Remember, you can use Epic creator code Kinda Funny on all Epic Store and Epic in-game purchases like Rocket League and Fortnite to help support the channel. To be a part of the show, to patreon.com/kindafunnygames, where bronze members or above get to write in, and silver members or above get the show ad-free with the exclusive daily post show. Housekeeping for you, a new Kinda Funny Gamescast is up right now, and it's our predictions for how we see this Activision Blizzard acquisition going. It is a free-form conversation with me, Tim, Greg, and Andy. There's a lot of debate and back and forth on whether or not we think all this is a good thing or a bad thing or anywhere in between. You can check that out right now. And then in case you missed it, PS I Love You XOXO is up, and it's our re-review of Horizon Zero Dawn. We talk about what it's been like revisiting the game and our hopes for Horizon Forbidden West. That is up right now on YouTube and on podcast services around the globe. And of course, we're going to talk a little bit about Forbidden West later in the show because there was that new trailer, and I'm very excited to talk to you about this, Andy. But it is our last news story, so we'll see how much time we have by the time we get there. But I digress. Lastly, do you want to help us out? You can do so by filling out the RT podcast survey. It is all about the Kinda Funny podcast. It only says Kinda Funny podcast, but they're talking about all of our podcasts. It takes just a few minutes, and it helps our network understand what you like about us. You can go check that out on kindafunny.com/podcast survey. kindafunny.com/podcast survey. Thank you to our Patreon producers, James Davis, aka at James Davis Makes, Blackjack, and Pranksy. Today we're brought to you by HelloFresh, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 6 stories today.
Bacon's. No. Baker's dozen.
He's eating yogurt and he's like, fuck. I know what's on my mind.
Andy,
Yeah,
I've been
you know
waiting.
exactly
I've been waiting to eat because it gets in your mouth and it's so sticky. Like you can't say it right. So I was waiting.
Yeah.
I was waiting, but I
Man.
mumbled it.
Honestly, Kevin, you're contributing to great content this morning, though. I want to say, like, even though you're on one, like you're on one. You know, you're killing it. You're killing it. Speaking of one, let's start with story number 1. Of course, the first half of our news stories here are pretty much follow-ups from the Xbox acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Story number 1 is probably the biggest follow-up so far. Sony shares have fallen 13% following the news of Xbox's Activision Blizzard deal. This is Tom Ivan at Video Games Chronicle. Sony shares fell by nearly 13% on Wednesday following the news that Microsoft plans to acquire Activision Blizzard. The movement represents Sony's biggest drop since October 2008 and effectively wipes $20 billion from its market valuation in a single day. In comparison, third-party publishers, including Capcom, Square Enix, Electronic Arts, even though they write here Electric Arts, this is not the name of the company, and Ubisoft, all saw their share prices surge following the announcement of the deal. The Xbox maker announced before the market opened today that it intends to buy the Call of Duty and World of Warcraft publisher in a $68.7 billion deal, the game industry's biggest ever by some distance. Microsoft reportedly plans to keep making some Activision Blizzard games for PlayStation consoles following the takeover's expected completion in 2023. And Xbox head Phil Spencer has claimed that it's not our intent to pull communities away from that platform. Quote, long-term, this shows Microsoft is operating at an entirely different level than Sony and Nintendo, DFC Intelligence said of the Activision Blizzard deal in a research note. They continue, Sony and Nintendo have a huge presence in the existing games business, but those two smaller Japanese companies struggle to play in the higher strategic space the industry is heading. This is more about Microsoft competing with Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and others. This acquisition would immediately put Microsoft in a solid strategic position, end quote. And that's where I want to start with you, Andy. Andy, what are your thoughts on this being the Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard being less about competing with Sony and Nintendo and more about competing with bigger tech companies?
Well, we know that the other tech companies are they are thinking more than just games in the similar way to what Microsoft is thinking. And I think that's when we think of what Sony is doing and how Sony is such a games company right now. Sony is not killing it necessarily in the TV game or the cell phone game or anything like that. They are essentially PlayStation right now is kind of the main brand for Sony. So all of this definitely makes sense. I think the thing that makes me kind of more confused and something I'm more interested in is why did Capcom, Square Enix, Electric Arts, and Ubisoft have such big share prices surge? Why did the prices surge after the announcement? That's something I'm a little bit more interested in, and a reaction that I'm a bit more confused by.
Yeah, I'm of course not a financial person, right? I'm not a finance person. I don't know how these things go. If I had to guess, my guess would be taking Activision Blizzard off as a big third-party entity in the space probably frees up more space for the Ubisofts and the Capcoms and the other third parties to kind of dominate, right? When you take Call of Duty and make it quote unquote exclusive to Xbox and make it Xbox PC, that probably gives more Ubisoft and other publishers more breathing room for their games to perform a little bit better on PlayStation and other platforms. That's just a pure guess. Honestly have no idea because I noticed the same thing and I was like, I had the same thought of why would that happen?
Is it people preparing for? Is it people putting their eggs in a basket and assuming maybe one of these other third-party publishers gets swallowed up by one of these other by Sony or by by Riot, or I'm not even sure what Riot's valuation is, but that's just kind of what I'm assuming. Kevin, you had something you wanted to hop in
I was
with?
just gonna say that's what I was thinking too. That
Yeah.
people are like, oh shit, companies can get bought out for this much. Great. Let's which one do we think
Who's gonna react to this quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, especially when you look at the PlayStation shares dropping thing, right? One of the things we brought up during our Gamescast conversation yesterday was, what does PlayStation do, right? Like, what is the next step there? And we didn't get deep into the conversation. I think we're kind of like trying to like buy it until we get to PSLV so we can have that full conversation. But with shares dropping, right? Like, you look at that, you look at $20 billion wiped from like their market valuation in a single day. And that's ridiculous, right? And we talk about what is the response here. I don't think the response is to go business as usual. The PlayStation business is working for the PlayStation business in terms of PlayStation being where you go for AAA polished first party titles, right? Those premium prestige experiences that you can only get on PlayStation, like Last of Us and God of War and Horizon, right? That is what PlayStation has been for the last generation, and that is where they have shined, and that is what their strategy has been for the company. I don't know personally how much that strategy can continue to work if they want to stay competitive with Microsoft. And in that same breath, I don't know what else works. Like, if you want to stay competitive with Microsoft, because, as we mentioned, Microsoft's pockets are deep, right? Microsoft can buy Activision Blizzard. That is not something that Sony can just do, right? Sony, I'm sure, if they wanted to borrow money or gear up or try to make a big move like that, they could eventually get there. But I think that is a way bigger commitment for a company like Sony versus a company like Microsoft that has the back pockets of the rest of Microsoft to help back up the games business.
I think Sony right now banking on the Uncharted movie. That's the thing that's going to take us to the next stratosphere blessing.
No.
That's what they're waiting for, Kevin. All right, Kevin, we need to buy as many tickets as we can to give Sony a fighting chance. All right.
I'll watch it 3 or 4 times if that's what I need to do.
Now, it is worth noting, a lot of people in chat mentioning that the market was just kind of bad in general yesterday. There were dips kind of all over the place.
It's been bad
whether that was all reactionary to what was happening, I don't know, man. I have such a jaded view of everything. Once COVID hit and we just kind of realized that like none of this is real and like money could just be dispersed however, it's like it makes me feel icky, blessed. But that's a different conversation for a different time.
To stick to this conversation, I do want to pull into patreon.com/kindafunnygames, where of course you can go to get the show ad free, but you can also go to write in with your reader mail. And this is one I was going to save for later in the show, but I think it does have to do with our conversation we're having right now. Nolan Daniels wrote in to ask, Activision was founded after first-party console game developers left a toxic workplace to make the first ever third-party console games. Now, after a recent history of a toxic and even dangerous workplace, Activision will now be a first-party developer. Ironic. While I am excited for the good that comes from this, it is sad to see the original third-party console game developer cease to be so. Does this signal the end for AAA third-party game development? If so, how long do we have? And I think that is a very interesting question. Of course, and again, this feeds into some of what we were talking about yesterday in terms of our hopes and some of our fears with what this acquisition means for the rest of the industry and what the PlayStation response is, or even what does Microsoft and Nintendo and other big corporate entities continue to do in the space as they continue to gobble these third-party companies up, right? We talked about EA possibly being on the table, right? We talk about like even the Segas and the Konamis, like what can happen if a PlayStation could buy Konami, right? Is that a good thing? How would that affect the companies? I want to throw it back to you, Andy. Do you think that we are slowly seeing third-party game developers fall by the wayside and just all becoming first-party developers?
I'm going to go ahead and say no right off the bat, only because we would not have necessarily seen this if not for bad workplace practices and terrible environments for employees working in, and just having that much outcry from employees trying to unionize, in the news every day talking about all sorts of terrible things happening at the company. Like, it took a lot to kind of get here. Other third-party publishers have seen that amount of negativity in the workplace. They've seen small amounts of it, but never kind of in that much of an outcry. Like we all the Ubisoft stuff happened, and I feel like Activision kind of slowly took over the news, and Ubisoft is probably really glad that they had somebody way worse than them in the industry. And I think it took something really drastic for Activision to be sold or bought. So I don't think this is the mark of something. If anything, I do think that this kind of sets off an alarm to where all these third-party developers or publishers say, hey, we kind of need to get our shit together, because this could quickly happen. If I guarantee you right now, at a bunch of third-party publishers, or really at any studio, people are watching this really closely and saying, that can happen here as well. Hey, we've been dealing with some bullshit here at our studio as well. What are the next steps we want to take? Because I guarantee you, those conversations are happening around the industry right now.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I think those conversations are happening. For the question of, is third party going away? I think it is a wait and see thing. I think the signs are there in terms of third party developers and publishers possibly getting gobbled up. I think the door is open now for it to happen, because Activision Blizzard, I would say, was probably the biggest of them out there. When we're talking about when we were at least talking about the big third party companies, we're talking about Activision, we're talking about Ubisoft, we're talking about EA. The fact that Activision, the makers of Call of Duty, right, the game that's on the top of the MPD charts every single year, every single month, right, and we'll get to that later. The fact that they're able to get gobbled up, and I'm right there with you that, yeah, I think this happens because of the controversy of the last half year. But I also think that I think it was inevitable. I think this just made it an easier grab for Microsoft. You know, this $68 billion is still a lot of money to spend on a big corporation like that. And I think it was the fact that they were damaged. I'm sure Microsoft was already looking at them and being like, all right, when's the right time? How can we make this happen? The fact that Activision had a blow struck and they were weak made it easier for Microsoft to go, all right, now's the time, let's do it. And for that is Activision. I think for EA, for Ubisoft, for companies that are worth way less than an Activision, I think it's a matter of time before they do. And I don't want to be super alarmist or super like everything's fucking dying and everything is going away and everything sucks, right? I don't think every single third-party developer is going anywhere, right? I do think what's on the table are these big guys, and are the EAs. I think that Sega's on the table. I think Konami might be on the table, right? And I think some of those might be good moves. I would actually like to see a PlayStation acquire a Konami. They're not doing anything with their games, and I think a PlayStation in control of Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill, and them already having those partnerships with Kojima, and having their slate of developers that I think would actually do good things with those IP. I could see the good that could do. But
welcome home. Welcome
home, like
Snake.
Welcome home, Metal Gear Solid. But on the broad level, I do think it's kind of scary. Of like, oh yeah, these guys can. The whole industry could be bought and like kind of easily now. What it feels like to me.
I do want to open up the Discord to Jeff Grubb if he does want to pop in and give us his thoughts, because Jeff Grubb definitely has way more knowledge on, I'd say, either of us on this sort of stuff, because I'm a man-child, blessing, and I pay student loans, and that's all I know about finances. So if Jeff Grubb does want to hop in, he did say hang on, so he may not be available, but we can move on if I think
hang on. I assume he's on his way, and so as he's making his way here, I do want to jump into the next news story, because again, half of this Roper Report is all about Activision Blizzard, so we can hang out here for a while. Story number 2: Bobby Kotick wanted to buy Kotaku. This is Tom Phillips at Eurogamer, and I think I heard Jeff Grubb join. Jeff Grubb, stick around for a second.
No, Jeff Grubb did not join. Gary Whitta joined, because Gary Whitta's game, Loodle the game, is now live.
Wait, is it really?
I don't know, Gary.
Gary, tell us about it.
Well, I've heard it on good authority that my good friend Gary Whitta just launched LoodleGame.com, the naughty, lewd, profane, very, very dirty version of Wordle. It's alive right now at LEWDLEGame.com, LoodleGame.com. Play it with your kids. No, actually, don't play with your kids.
Thank you. Thank you, not Gary Whitta.
Thank you, not Gary Whitta.
Gary's publicist.
We appreciate it. Kevin, later in the show, I do want to do a live playthrough of Loodle. after this Activision Blizzard segment, but we'll get there in a second. Jeff Grubb did just join. Jeff, I'm going to put you on hold for a second. I want to read this next second news story, and then I'll come back to you. So again, story number 2, Bobby Kotick wanted to buy Kotaku. This is Tom Phillips at Eurogamer. Activision Blizzard's controversial boss, Bobby Kotick, recently considered acquiring video games websites such as Kotaku and PC Gamer, according to a new report. That's according to the Wall Street Journal and sources with knowledge of Activision Blizzard's recent plans. Kotick apparently suggested the idea to change the public narrative surrounding Activision Blizzard following months of media coverage of the company's culture, history of sexual harassment allegations, and subsequent employee protests. Activision has denied the report, while Kotaku owner GO Media declined to comment. Quote, "This is an awfully strong reaction to us giving the last..." Well, let me read that again because this is not the Tony game. Quote, "This is an awfully strong reaction to us giving the last Call of Duty a 60. Global editor-in-chief of PC Gamer, Evan Lottie, told Eurogamer in a response," which is a really funny response from PC Gamer, so thank you for that. Jeff Grubb, you just joined. To go back, just stick here for a second, right? I want to get your thoughts on this Kotaku situation because, like, you write for a big games media company, right? I want to hear about that, and then I also do want to hear about your thoughts on like where the fuck does the industry go from here in terms of acquiring companies and competing.
Yeah, my first response is that Will Smith gif where he's like, "Why don't he want me, man? Why doesn't Bobby Kotick want to acquire me? Come on." That is one of the most insane things I've ever... Listen, I get billionaires like to buy media companies and stuff, but if he thinks that would have changed the narrative, he is so out of touch. He does need to get out of here. He does need to go retire because he just does not know what's happening anymore.
I felt reading that felt like reading like a villain like scenario from a comic book or a movie,
right,
where it's like, this is villain behavior.
James Bond villain. Yeah, James Bond villain's like, I'm gonna control all of media, and that's gonna be my way out of this. Like,
I tweeted that this felt like Succession half as a joke, but that is just getting way, way more like Succession with the bad person saying, "Let's control the narrative here."
It's a parody of itself at this point. Yeah. He really is.
So how do you think PlayStation competes with Xbox, or even other companies in the industry compete with Xbox? Do you think we're off base in terms of more third-party publishers getting bought?
No, I think we're at Activision was definitely at its natural conclusion right now, where like either they're going to have to reboot and their stock price was going to dip and the leadership probably was going to have to resign because they were in a tough situation where, what happened with Activision was they only focused on the things that made the biggest profit. So they cut off Tony Hawk, they cut off everything else they were making, and now they're stuck with just Call of Duty. And if things went sideways with Blizzard, and now they're going to have next couple of years where they're going to have dipping revenue, differing operating income, and so they were going to look really bad to investors, and their stock price was going to dive almost certainly. So Microsoft swoops in right then, picks them up. That could still happen with a lot of these other companies. I would say that EA seems to have seen that writing on the wall and has begun sort of looking at ways to diversify what it was putting out there. So Electronic Arts is making Dead Space and stuff like that, and they're looking for ways to avoid being in the situation that Activision found itself in. Ubisoft, though, is kind of trying to stay in the similar lane, but all these companies are at risk of this happening for sure. I would say that in terms of like how does Sony compete, how do third-party publishers avoid getting acquired? The solution mostly is to believe in games, which is why I don't think Sony's in too much trouble in the immediate future. They believe in games, they make a lot of video games, that's what people show up for, so they're probably going to be just fine. Long term, though, Sony is going to have to recognize that Microsoft is spending a lot of money to remake this industry in Game Pass's image. And what does that mean? How do you compete with that? There are a couple options. You could begin financing acquisitions of your own, huge acquisitions. And financing right now is an option because capital is really cheap, interest rates are really low. They could do that. That is an option available to them. But taking on a ton of debt to try to keep up with someone who is paying cash on everything, that doesn't sound like a business I would want to be in personally. I think Sony is probably still going to try that. I still think that's probably the route they're going to take. But I say my solution here, I just wrote about this. My solution here is...
And where'd you write about it at?
It's go to gamesbeat.com. Check this out. I just put the story up. But the gist of it is, don't fight it. Just go to the table right now, dictate terms with Microsoft and say, what is it going to take to get Game Pass on here in a way that we can find acceptable? Maybe just first-party games. Maybe we get... at least 30% of the cut, but maybe we get 30% of all the revenue that you're making from all these other things, and then maybe pay us a little bit extra on top. And now PlayStation 5 is the one place you can go to get all PlayStation 5 games and all Xbox games day one, and it becomes a really appealing place. I just don't see what the problem is there. I don't see why Sony would be against that, other than they think they need Microsoft to lose for them to win. And I don't, that is not an actual thing here. Like, both companies can continue to exist and continue growing bigger and bigger. And I think Sony just needs to come to the table, and that's the solution.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And like I worry that PlayStation is stubborn and they won't let that happen, even though I think that is the right solution. Because one of the things I was talking about on Gamescast yesterday was the fact that a lot of games now have been taken away from the PlayStation library, right? And you know, like it's not the end of the world, because on for the Xbox platform now, you can play games in a lot of different ways. Xbox games are coming to PC. Xbox games are coming to streaming. Hopefully, by the time a lot of these games become are releasing under Xbox, right? We're gonna get Starfield later this year. I'm sure Call of Duty, by the time that releases as an Xbox game, that'll be a couple of years from now.
Yep.
Maybe things will be solved out. Maybe things will be smoothed out. Maybe streaming will look better. Maybe things will look better in that regard. But even still, right, for PlayStation trying to speak to their audience, there are now huge chunks of games that feel like they're missing, right? The big Western RPG output is lesser on PlayStation now, right? And that is you're now missing the Elder Scrolls games, right? You're missing things from Obsidian. You're missing other big Western RPGs that were already exclusive to Xbox as well. First-person shooters, right? You're saying goodbye to Doom. You're saying goodbye to Wolfenstein. You're saying goodbye to Call of Duty. Microsoft already had Halo, and I do think you got to do something in order to speak to your audience, in order to serve your audience. And I think the right move would be to put Game Pass on your platform to liven up that library. As much as I understand the stubbornness of but no, we're PlayStation. Like, this is us. We operate doing our own thing, and we are this boutique spot where you come to play the best games. I don't think that stubbornness can last for the rest of the generation, because I think you might have to start saying goodbye to some of your audience to Xbox if that's the case.
And
if
Sony's
I'm Sony, if I'm
Sony,
just give me a percentage of whatever that Game Pass thing is. I think that's genius. I think you're dead on in that article right there, Jeff Grubb. And again, chat, when you open that article that is in chat, turn off ad block. Losers,
thanks.
Turn off ad block. Yeah.
Or go to events.venturebeat.com and register for our events, which is where we make the real money.
Yeah.
I'll just say, like, Sony's got a dominant position right now. They can say, look at Call of Duty. Look how much money it makes on PlayStation. It makes a ton of money on PlayStation, more than it even makes on Xbox. Let's recognize the importance of PlayStation to many of the games you own, and let's come to a reasonable agreement. And a reasonable agreement right now will probably be one that very much favors Sony. And if you wait a couple years, like this is what happened with the movie theaters, right? Movie theaters are like, hey, we're renegotiating our agreements with the movie makers and stuff like that. And then the pandemic comes along, destroys movie theaters, and now they're in a situation where they have no bargaining chips and they're screwed. Sony is probably not going to end up in that situation, but you don't want to give up your bargaining chips now that you have now to wait and see if you can maybe compete in some other ways, when you could just make the deal now, get it over with, rip off the Band-Aid, and then figure out what the future looks like for a new PlayStation 5 that isn't trying to destroy Xbox.
Jeff Grubb, I appreciate you coming through. Thank you so much for your input.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody, go check out Gamesbeat. Check out Jeff Grubb's articles. And again, go to subscribe to their events, subscribe to the newsletters, give them all the love and support, and turn off that damn ad block.
And twitch.tv/Jeff Grubb to watch him play the Anacrusis, which I was watching him play a bit of. And instead of that, you could just play Rainbow Six Extraction, because I actually like that game.
Also, check out his TikTok. I could not tell you the username of his TikTok because the username is real messy. In fact, I think it has the word mess in there. But yeah, go Google Jeff Grubb TikTok. I'm sure it'll pop up. Andy, let's hop into another Activision Blizzard story. Story number 3. Labor organizers say Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard won't stop them. This is Charlie Hall at Polygon. On Tuesday, Microsoft announced its plans to acquire Activision Blizzard, makers of Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush, and many other popular video game franchises, for a reported $68.7 billion. The move comes amidst heightened tensions between leaders at Activision Blizzard and workers attempting to form a union. Organizers say that despite the distraction and the potential for new leadership, the fight for workers' rights at Activision Blizzard is still ongoing. In a statement Tuesday on Twitter, the Activision Blizzard King Workers Alliance was adamant that the change must come from the top of the company, regardless of who its owner is. Quote, "The news of Activision Blizzard's acquisition by Microsoft is surprising," said the Activision Blizzard King Workers Alliance in a statement today on Twitter. Quote, "but does not change the goals of the ABK Workers Alliance. We remain committed to fighting for workplace improvement and the rights of our employees, regardless of who is financially in control of the company," end quote. It's a situation that Activision has largely brought upon itself. The story began last summer with detailed reporting at Kotaku and other outlets describing a hostile work environment decades in the making. The ABK Workers Alliance was formed in August 2021 to support its workers and improve workplace conditions. That effort is still ongoing, including at Raven Software, where workers are currently in their 5th week of a strike to protest layoffs. Other demands include the call for the removal of CEO Bobby Kotick, who has retained his position at Activision Blizzard despite his central role in many of his controversies. Quote, whatever the leadership structure of the company, ABK Workers Alliance concluded in a statement, we will continue our push to #end abuse in gaming and appreciate the outpouring of support we've experienced in the last year, end quote. And that's one that I think a lot of us were wondering about in terms of, okay, well, what happens to the protests? What happens to the strike? What happens to the workers' movements going on at Activision Blizzard? And it makes sense that, like, hey, it doesn't stop here, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen when you get acquired, right? You don't know. There are reports, there are rumors, there are all these things, there's speculation in terms of Bobby Kotick is probably going to step down after the deal is finalized and all these things, right? Even if Bobby Kotick steps down, that doesn't erase all the shit that still goes on in Activision Blizzard. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And again, this is a thing that I said on some show yesterday, that like even with Activision Blizzard being adopted into Microsoft and Xbox, you may shed some of the issues that you have at Activision Blizzard, but then you are adopting things that may exist at Xbox that you don't know about, right? As much as there's probably a lot of celebration going on, there's probably a lot of fear as well in terms of, all right, what does this mean for my future? All right, does my role stay the same? What are the things at Xbox that I need to worry about or I need to feel confident in? And I think with that, staying true to the movement and still pushing for, hey, no, we still want to unionize. We still want workers to be treated better. We want good change. We want to and #end abuse in gaming, as they mentioned in the tweet. I think makes sense. And yeah, of course, support the movement.
Absolutely. Yeah, the fund is still up. They've been raising money for a lot of the people that are still striking, who were just unjustifiably laid off in a pretty terrible fashion by Activision. Yeah, I think you're right, Bless. They don't know exactly what they're going into. It is that fear of the unknown. And I do hope that they are able to find some more stability and they're able to find a place that is safer working under Xbox. But keep on fighting for those rights and keep on trying to unionize, because I think that is the most important thing about this. And yeah, hopefully everything works out, man. I genuinely hope that they are walking into a much better position than they were 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's a thing I talked about a little bit again on Gamescast, which you go check out that episode of Gamescast yesterday, in terms of corporate consolidation being kind of a scary thing. I think one of the scary things about it, and one of the scary things I think in this particular situation, is that Xbox is now huge, right? And growth in a lot of ways is great, in a lot of ways is not great. We've seen companies grow and not be able to manage that growth, and then things go awry. I look at CD Projekt Red, for example, and how that company grew going into Cyberpunk 2077, and with that growth, they weren't able to manage it, and all of a sudden things go awry. With Microsoft adopting Activision Blizzard King, that is growing them by a lot, and
Yeah.
even with the faith that I think a lot of us have in Xbox, it is difficult to manage that many teams, that many people, and try to align all these different companies under a similar corporate structure. Like Activision Blizzard, just because they're getting acquired by Microsoft doesn't mean that things are necessarily going to change. Again, Microsoft and Xbox is known to have kind of a hands-off approach in terms of like, create the games you want to create, operate the way you want to operate. And of course, with Activision Blizzard, you'd hope that the approach isn't as hands-off in terms of fixing the cultural shit there. But even then, they also have to pay attention to the Bethesda teams. They also have to pay attention to the original Microsoft teams, right? There's a lot to manage there for Xbox. And I'm sure the answer for them will probably be hiring up and figuring out like, okay, cool, let's delegate. Let's figure out who's in charge of making sure Activision is good, who's in charge of making Bethesda good. But that's a lot of work, and nothing is for sure here. And so again, I think it is good that they're sticking to the cause and still pushing to make their workplace better. Now, pivoting, of course, I want to hop into story number 4. Before I do that, I want to let everybody out there know that they can go to patreon.com/kindafunnygames, where they can go to get the show ad free. And speaking of ads, let us tell you about our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Sticking to your New Year's resolutions can be hard, but if you're focusing on saving money by ordering less takeout, learning to cook, or prioritizing your wellness, smashing your goals is a piece of cake with HelloFresh. HelloFresh has endless options to make cooking at home simple and enjoyable by delivering pre-portioned ingredients to your door, including farm-fresh produce that arrives within a week. HelloFresh has 50 menu and market items to choose from every single week, including some more family-friendly or gourmet choices. Kevin Coelho, Paula Coelho, they've been loving HelloFresh. They, of course, Paula, being a vegetarian, like the options of having the vegetarian stuff, and they've been having some fantastic meals over there in their Coelho household. Go to HelloFresh.com/KindaFunny16 and use code KindaFunny16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com/KindaFunny16 and use code KindaFunny16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts.
Andy, story number 4 is us kind of exiting the Activision Blizzard talk a little bit. It's kind of a soft exit because we're still going to talk a little bit about Activision Blizzard in this one, but it's a news story that's not focused on Activision
We're in the
Blizzard.
exit lane, plus.
We're in the exit lane, right?
I
We're the
stuck
exit
my hand
ahead
out the window because my blinker is broken. I need to get it fixed.
Yeah. Give me your best Google Maps impression when they're telling you to take an exit.
Shit, I don't got it.
I put you on the spot. I put you on the spot.
I was trying to think of it, and I was almost gonna do like a Michael Caine, like you want to exit on the right. I was gonna like I don't know, plus it's just,
That was good though. That was good though.
Thank
You know,
thank you. I know it was
Andy.
great. I know.
Let's hop into story number 4. Call of Duty Vanguard and Black Ops Cold War were number 1 and number 2. Were the number 1 and number 2 best-selling games of 2021 in the U.S. This is Eddie at GameSpot, and this is more so just a news story about the NPD report that we got for 2021 because the reports are up. We can now take a full look at the year and talk about what games sold well and what games sold surprisingly. Let's hop in to this Eddie article. Amid news that Activision and the Call of Duty series are being acquired by Microsoft. I love that every single article so far has started with that sentence. The NPD Group has released its sales report for December 2021 and the full year, revealing that Call of Duty, Vanguard, and Black Ops Cold War were the top 2 best-selling games of the year. Vanguard was December's best-selling game of December and the full year, and the series has now been the best-selling game franchise for dollar sales for 13 years in a row. Halo Infinite was December, right? 13 years.
That's so crazy that Vanguard becomes the number 1 selling game of the year, and it was released in December. November.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Had a month and a half to do that. Wild. Halo Infinite was December's second best-selling game overall and the top seller on Xbox, which is also an interesting one because, again, that was on Xbox Game Pass. So that speaks to the power of, like, even though shit appears on Game Pass, stuff still sells, like, even regardless. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl was number 3 overall for December and number 1 on Nintendo platforms for December and the full year. The Pokemon series had a banner year in 2021, with physical software reaching the highest annual total since the year 2000. Here's how the ranking shook out in 2021 by dollar sales. Let's start with just December. I'm going to give you the top 10, Andy, for December 2021. At number 10, you have Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Wow.
And I should note that for a lot of these games, digital sales aren't included. I believe Nintendo games do not have digital sales included specifically. So yeah, Animal Crossing New Horizons was number 10 there. At number 9, NBA 2K22. At number 8, Mario Party Superstars. At number 7, Spider-Man Miles Morales. At number 6, Mario Kart 8. At number 5, Battlefield 2042. At number 4, Madden NFL 22. At number 3, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. At number 2, Halo Infinite. And then at number 1 for December 2021, Call of Duty Vanguard.
Miles Morales a year later.
Yeah, in December.
Getting that No Way Home bump. Good job.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we talked about a little bit ago on PS Love You when we looked through the PlayStation PSN store specific sales, and Miles Morales was at one point I think above even Call of Duty, and it was like, dude, that is the power of one Spider-Man. That is the power of this is the power of the Spider-Man No Way Home bump specifically, but also the power of the IP. It's also the power of Insomniac. It's the power of fucking how good that fucking game is. Because I went back to play it, or how good those games are, I should say. Because I went back to play the DLC for Spider-Man Remastered, and I just got done finishing Spider-Man Miles Morales again last night. And man, those games are fucking good, Andy. Insomniac, they'd be putting crack in that in those games.
They're pretty damn good at what they do. I think my focus immediately gets brought to at number 17 for December was Guardians of the Galaxy. Shout out Guardians, a game that just didn't make our top 10. A lot of people were mad about that, but it's still a really, really good game. I think it was actually number 11 or 12 on our list. And number 18, Ghost of Tsushima, which was a game that I finally beat this past year, and it beat Super Mario 3D World, which is really cool, and it's something I wasn't necessarily expecting for a game that had come out last year, or was it last year?
A year and a half ago. It's 2020.
So yeah, Ghost of Tsushima being on this top 20 list for December of this past year is pretty impressive for me.
Now, to hop for 2021 overall best-selling games, they got 20 games here. I'm gonna go the full 20 because when we're talking about the whole year, you gotta get a broad look at how these things land. And so, starting at number 20, we got Forza Horizon 5, 19, Mortal Kombat 11, 18, Back 4 Blood, 17, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, right? Number 16, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, 15, NBA 2K22, 14, Animal Crossing New Horizons, 13, Minecraft, 12, FIFA 22, 11, Far Cry 6. At number 10, Super Mario 3D World. Above that is MLB The Show 21. Above that is Resident Evil Village, the Mario Kart 8. And again, Mario Kart 8 is not counting digital sales, which is very important to note because we're talking about top 2021.
My God.
Top best-selling games of 2021. Mario Kart 8 is number 7 without digital sales included. Insane. Number 6, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Number 5, Battlefield 2042. Number 4, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond / Shining Pearl. Number 3, Madden NFL 22. Number 2, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. And number 1, Call of Duty Vanguard. Andy, do any of those stick out to you?
I think immediately I look at 14, Animal Crossing New Horizons being over NBA 2K22, which is a multi-platform game. I would have assumed that New Horizons year was 2020, which was the year of the pandemic. And that's the year that we kind of saw not only Animal Crossing New Horizons release, but have that big boom and just everybody's playing it. And suddenly everybody has a Nintendo Switch and Brie Larson is on Animal Talking, starring Gary Witt, star game developer of Loodle the game. And now we see it still
Let's Play
here.
Coming up soon.
We see it here still in 2021. Above NBA 2K22, and that's pretty impressive to me for a game as popular as NBA 2K22, which whenever we see NBA, the 2K series pop up on these lists, it's always, I'd say, top 5 in whatever month that we're looking at in any given month. And for a game on one platform to surpass NBA 2K22, I think is really impressive.
Yeah. Again, I want to point out Call of Duty Vanguard and Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War being numbers 1 and 2 for 2021 overall, the top 20 best-selling games. Again, I look at that and I wonder, how do you treat Call of Duty as Microsoft? Because I was saying this before, and I was thinking about it this morning as I woke up, and I was thinking about, like, am I making sense when I say this? When I say that you don't spend $68 billion to then look at Call of Duty and go, stop making as much money as you are, right? The strat for Xbox being Game Pass still, right? I think they had to put Call of Duty on Game Pass, because if they didn't, then that's weird, right? Like, that is their whole strategy. But I wonder, like,
I think
I don't think that's a lot of money.
I don't think you're wrong about that way of thinking. Obviously, that's a lot of money you're going to leave on the table if you choose to go every other year with it. I do think there are smarter ways to go about its development, and I think that they will. I think the team at Xbox will talk to Activision and say, kind of, hey, what? Let's say after the end of every game or whatever, at the end of every DLC cycle or whatever thing, we're always going to have a sort of wrap-ups and, how did the development go? What are some of the problems we saw? There are definitely smarter ways to make those games in more of not only efficient ways, but ways that don't require, crunch, or ways that don't feel like they are, the game is coming out and it's immediately broken and the fan base is mad. It's got to be, woe is them, multimillionaires going, oh, our game came out and it's really broken, but who gives a shit? It's number 1 on the list of in a month that it had just come out the prior month. It's pretty wild to me that they are still seeing those numbers, especially when you are somebody like me who's always kind of looking at esports culture and reading about how certain players or big influencers feel about certain games, it always seems like doom and gloom with Call of Duty. It always seems like the game is dead. And then you see these numbers and go, nah, man, like it's still selling well. And that is just a small pocket of the internet.
And I think it's the big indicator that like, Andy, me and you, right? We're on Games Daily. We talk about this stuff. We pay attention to games media. I felt like this fall, games media was relatively almost radio silent when it came to the release of Call of Duty Vanguard. And I think both that is just the general non-interest in Call of Duty that games media has, but then also the fact that with the Activision Blizzard happenings, I think that was the more important things on everybody's mind, over more so than the actual game release, and people didn't feel as people didn't feel like streaming it as much. People didn't feel like propping it up as much and talking about the game as something to celebrate, right? In the way that we talk about other games, how hype we are for Horizon Forbidden West and all these other things.
Especially when we played Warzone a lot.
Yeah, us specifically. Yeah, we played Warzone a lot. We played Overwatch a lot, right? And like a lot of that has died down and calmed down because we've not felt like it now.
It not only I was already reaching a place of burnout with Warzone. Mm-hmm. Before any of the larger controversies hit. And I think when those larger controversies hit, it just kind of felt wrong. And I wouldn't have been able to stream it and not feel kind of gross about it. And I feel like a lot of people also felt that way. But obviously not enough people. Because it's still way the hell up there, Blessing.
And that's what I want to bring up is the fact that despite the relative radio silence from the media side, it does not matter, right? Like Call of Duty is still number one, and like media doesn't care about Call of Duty as much. The world is still gonna play Call of Duty regardless, which like on one hand, like good for the IP. That is a strong IP. It's out there killing it. But on the other hand, it's like, yo, that's kind of depressing, right? That like no matter what, like this thing is going to be number one. It's gonna sell. Yeah, I just find it fascinating. Very interesting that the top two games of the year are both Call of Duty. But I digress. We're going to continue to talk about Call of Duty and what it means for Xbox and what Xbox does with it as the days and the months and the years go. But for now, Andy, I want to talk about a different first-person shooter. The story number 5, Rainbow Six Extraction reviews are up. We got a review roundup for you. Right now on Metacritic, it is sitting at a 73. On OpenCritic, it is also sitting at a 73. I got 2 reviews for you, and then I want to point to Andy, because I know Andy has been playing some Rainbow Six Extraction. I've also played a little bit of it. I think Mike's in the call if Mike wants to speak up too, to talk about Rainbow Six Extraction. To start off with Luke Winkle at IGN, they gave it a 7 out of 10 and says, Rainbow Six Extraction is one of the boldest games in recent Ubisoft history. Not only does it exchange the series' stead military realism for a wonderfully grotesque universe of oozing parasitic incursion, it also introduces a slew of mechanics determined to make us fear death. Returning to the scene of a failed mission in a desperate attempt to pry a friend's body from the festering horde is legitimately one of the most exhilarating operations I've ever attempted in a co-op video game. But Extraction's premise wore on me quickly, and its set of recurring objectives, while well-designed, didn't offer quite enough intrigue to keep me excited about coming back for as long as some other similar games. As a result, Extraction resembles a generous, well-executed expansion pack rather than a brand new game. And I'm going to hop over to Austin Goslin at Polygon, who doesn't give it a score, but titles their article, Rainbow Six Extraction is all grind and no payoff. The excerpt I'm pulling reads like this. Playing Rainbow Six Extraction, Ubisoft's co-op versus AI spinoff of its competitive tactical shooter, Rainbow Six Siege, is like playing all the worst parts of a very good game. The mechanics remain outstanding, but all the new content feels like an endless list of RPG side quests that feel destined to lead to something better, but never actually do. Because all of the progression is linear, rewards are just handed to you in a set order and rarely make you feel significantly stronger. In other words, Extraction is a very flat experience. Even worse, all these levels and upgrades always feel like they're pushing you towards something cool, but once you get into the end game, it turns out they never were. The end game is just more of the same incursions, but with harder difficulties, a smaller pool of operators which changes every few days, and some modifiers. Extraction's grinding is no more or less rewarding than a clicker game. Its best asset is its underlying mechanics, which make for a solid shooter if you can find the right group of friends with which to play with. Andy, Cortez, you've been playing quite a bit of Rainbow Six Extraction with Snowek, Mike, and others. Where are you at with these reviews and how you feel about it?
I am definitely a lot higher on both of these reviews. Even Luke Winkle gave it a 7 out of 10, which is a really good score. And right now sitting at a Metacritic of 73. I definitely go a bit higher than that. I haven't really cared about a Ubisoft game in a long time, Blessing. I've always kind of felt I don't know, maybe the tiredness. It's always kind of felt very Ubisoft, which is like the best way I could put it. But with Rainbow Six Extraction, it's a game that I wasn't necessarily expecting to love going in. And we had that preview session, and you were pulled away from that preview session to go host Games Daily because Gary Whitta's internet shut off. And Mike and I stayed there, but the game stuck with me after playing a couple of matches because of its difficulty and because of the tactical nature that it has. And I thought, well, we'll see if that feeling alone is enough to keep me on. And I kept on playing when we got the codes release, when we got the codes given to us by Ubisoft, and I found myself wanting to keep on to keep on getting that progression with not only leveling up your operatives, but every sort of incursion you go into has these sort of meta objectives similar to, let's say, a Fortnite challenge or a Valorant challenge, where it's like, sure, you'll get XP for finishing this match, but what if you get so many headshots on these dudes? What if you ping these bad guys? So there's all these sort of ways to level up and feel good and get that satisfaction of seeing the number grow higher and the sound effects pop off, and it just feels really, really good to level up. But more than anything, there are legitimately really thrilling moments in this game whenever your operative does happen to get stuck in a certain area and you realize you have to go rescue your operative the next time around, or everything's going fine and suddenly a slew of enemies will pop up from behind you and you get exploded and you're downed, and you have to wait for your teammate like Mike, or we played with the nanobiologist the other day, and you got to hope, oh man, are they going to go just extract on their own to get their XP back? But of course not, because the best teammate in the world, Mike, is going to pull off just hero plays. And it all results in really exciting, thrilling moments. And I did not expect to really love this game, and I genuinely cannot stop playing this game. I want to keep on progressing. I want to keep on leveling up the operatives that I'm using. And it's been really cool to not only see a pretty neat, I'd say, a pretty neat amount of different levels and different missions whenever you get in there, but there are some really cool surprises that end up popping up later on in the game that I was not expecting to see. Almost sort of boss battle type things that I don't really want to spoil anything, but when you experience them, it's really cool and it feels a lot different than what I was expecting to get. And I don't know, it's got a really neat progression system that I'm really digging, and I have not felt this way about a Ubisoft game since probably The Division 2. And that's been a long time, dude.
Yeah. I mean, everything you're saying right now is making me excited to continue, because I've only played that during that preview session that got cut short with that you mentioned, and then also yesterday I was playing a lot with Greg, and during that time I was really enjoying myself. It's exactly everything you mentioned. It's exactly I'm going to go into a mission with Greg and we're going to complete the objectives that we can, and then having the decision halfway through being like, should we pull out here because we're weak and you're weak and we don't want to lose these operators, or do we keep pushing because we feel like we got this stuff? I feel like the mechanics I think are pretty solid, and that's to be expected because it is pulling from the mechanics of Rainbow Six Siege, and Rainbow Six Siege is a very mechanically solid game. And it's also, it literally has the same operators, and some of them seem tweaked. Like I chose Lion, who in Rainbow Six Siege, Lion's ability will, if you activate it, any of the enemies that are moving in the map, you can then kind of see them, right? You can ping them. But in Rainbow Six Extraction, choosing Lion, I was like, all right, how's this gonna work? And it's the same ability, but it's different. Where now it is a beacon that you kind of send out, and any of the enemies that are near you can see them through walls. And they're making those small adjustments to make it so that, okay, no, this feels like I'm playing the characters that I love from Siege, but they make sense for this game. Even though there are some characters where I'm still waiting to see how they're going to be applicable. Sledge, for example, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to use Sledge yet in this game, because Sledge breaks down walls, and I don't see the scenario where I'm going to want to break down a wall yet. But I had the same thing with I forget the other character. There's like a character that's good at reinforcing walls. Oh, not even a character. There's the mechanic to reinforce walls like you do in Siege. And in the first areas, I was like, when am I ever going to reinforce walls in this game? But then me and Greg got to an objective that is like, hey, you're going to have to do this. And I was like, okay, cool. Okay, Greg, before you activate this thing, let me reinforce the wall so that way we have a better chance. You're thinking in those similar ways that I think is very satisfying, and they make it work. My one worry is what these reviews have been identifying, which is the long game. How is the progression? Does this game stay fun after a while? And it sounds like from your time playing, you're having a better experience with it than the reviews that we just read. But me being early still, I am like, okay, I can see how this could get old, but I could also see how I stick with it and maybe get to those places where it's like, oh shit, this mission seems cooler than the last mission, and enjoy it that way.
Yeah,
I think so I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think having the players start off in different areas of these really well-designed maps is really neat as well, just to kind of add into that, to just make it, to feel that variety. Now we're going to the same map, but now we're starting on this side of the map, and our mission objectives are 3 different things than they were last time. And sure, they may be the same objectives last time, just shuffled in a way, or there may be an added one and 2 of the same from the last time. I think there's enough variety there to make it feel good and make it, I don't know, satisfying to play. And it was really neat when we played with the nanobiologist, and he's using a drone that is also emitting this radar, and I go, what the fuck are you using right there? And he goes, oh, I got this at level whatever. And I go, oh shit, I really want to level up and get that later on. Yeah. There's just a lot of really cool added things for progression that make the game, I think, really good. And I haven't really felt this way about a PvE game. I thought Back 4 Blood was going to be that for me, and I lost interest on that pretty quickly. I still think it's a good game. I think my gaming habits are, when everybody says, are you going to stick with this? It's like, well, I don't stick with any game, so I'm not the person to ask. Like, when I beat the final boss in Destiny 2, and I'll wait for the next expansion. You know, like, I never stick around really in any game, but I've put about 15 hours, maybe over 15 hours in Rainbow Six Extraction so far, and I want to keep on going, and I want to keep on progressing because I'm having that much fun with it.
Hell yeah. Let's move on to our last and final news story for the Roper Report. Story number 6. There's a new Horizon Forbidden West story trailer. And I'm going to pull a little bit from a write-up from IGN from Jonathan Dornbush to kind of give us the context of the trailer. But then also, Kevin, if you can go into the doc under the headline for the news story, I have the link to the trailer if you want to pull it up. Oh, perfect. See, this is why we love you, Kevin. You're good at your job. You know how to pull up clips on like a Barrett Horn. I'm joking, Barrett. I know you're here.
Motherfucker.
I know. I'm joking. You're the king of pulling up clips, Barrett. Kevin
what?
Is the queen. Kevin is the queen. You're the queen.
All right. Yeah. No, you saved it. I like that.
There you go. To read quickly from Jonathan Dornbush, right? Jonathan writes here, Horizon Forbidden West is looking to expand Aloy's story and world in some major ways. The sequel, coming to PS4 and PS5 on February 18th, is not only introducing a new region, as evidenced by its title, but it is also introducing new tribes and new threats, bringing back beloved characters from Horizon Zero Dawn, and exploring new mysteries about Guerrilla Games' fascinating world. A new story trailer ahead of the launch next month teases what's in store for Aloy, including a focus on the new villain, Regala, played by legendary actress Angela Bassett, and what exploration into the Forbidden West means for Aloy's journey. I highly recommend.
Don't forget about Carrie-Anne Moss.
So that's what I wanted to point out. That was the big reason I wanted to bring up the trailer, is because this shit caught me off guard. And I like, Kevin, you can just fast forward to the end of the trailer, honestly. Fast forward to the end of the trailer. Because I got to a point, this exact point in the trailer, where I saw this and I was like, is that fucking Carrie-Anne Moss? And then I had to go to Twitter to like see what other people were saying, and nobody else was saying anything. But I was like, fuck, that's the Carrie-Anne Moss. Let's fucking go.
That's Trinity.
That's Trinity. Yeah, go back, like freeze frame. I think it is.
Yeah, it looks just like it definitely is. Yeah, they confirmed it. Yeah.
Okay. I saw that. I got super hyped. I was like, oh shit. Was not expecting that.
Very, very cool stuff. This game does not look real. It is wild how the level of visual fidelity we've reached. And every time I see a cutscene in this, I don't understand how it's a real playable thing. And I feel like I've been feeling that about a lot of different games coming out in the last year and in the future. This game looks amazing. I can't freaking wait. When are we going to get our damn codes?
God,
when are we going to get our codes?
I have the same question. When are we going to get our damn codes? Because that might be so far away. If I want to know what's coming out to mom and pop shops today, where would I look?
The official list of upcoming software across each and every platform as listed by the Kinda Funny Games Daily Show hosts each and every weekday.
Yeah. Out today, we got Dismantle for Xbox One, Hatsune Miku Logic Paint S for Xbox One and PC, Guild of Ascension for Switch, Vivid Night for Switch, Alina of the Arena for PC and Mac. Why'd they make that rhyme? And then Loodle is out right now for PC. We're going to come at you in the post show.
Loodle on PC. Yeah.
Loodle is out today on
It's
PC. Stay tuned for the post show where we're going to do a live playthrough of Loodle. New dates for you. Banjo-Kazooie will be added to Nintendo Switch Online's expansion pack tier on January 20th. Pants Quest, an adventure game about finding your pants, comes to
find my
Steam
pants
on March 1st. Where are my pants at?
Where my pants go?
The Nintendo Switch version of Dying Light 2 has been delayed to later in 2022.
Unfortunate.
And if you're asking, hey, wasn't that supposed to come out day and date, like in a few weeks with the other versions? Yes, it was.
Oh.
It has been delayed to later in 2022.
You could have told me Dying Light came out 2 months ago and I'd believed you.
Dying Light 2, the second one?
Yeah.
Dude, speaking of
if you
waiting
told
for
me
codes,
it came out already, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, sounds like
peek behind the
right.
curtain for everybody, right? I mentioned this on Gamescast, right? We're in review season. There's a bunch of games that are about to come out. I'm sitting here waiting for any code to come to my inbox.
Do you know what season it is?
Do you know what season it is? It's review season.
The latest setup. You should have been there. There was such a setup for Blessing having this grand, cool statement going, everybody, do you know what season it is? And we're like, no. And he goes, it's review season. We're like, oh.
They can't all be gold, Andy, all right? They can't all be gold.
Something clever there.
Not even most of them can be gold, all right? I can only give you gold maybe 2 out of 10 times, and that's what I was hired for. All right? Pay me more, maybe I'll give you more gold, Greg Miller, Tim Gates. Let's see, what else here? Splitgate Beta Season 1 launches January 27th, and then Mira's Brush leaves early access on January 21st.
Oh, by the way, brand new game mode in Halo dropped yesterday.
Oh.
Along with their new sort of event, which is like their cyberpunk event, their cyber whatever the hell they're calling it. But their new mode, Attrition, is really, really damn cool. Attrition, you start off with a set amount of lives, and your team gets whittled down. And when you get to the end of the round, and maybe you're all out of lives, you can res your teammates if they do get downed. And it was a lot of fun yesterday. We played, it was me, Snowbike Mike, Khalif from Spawn on Me, and we played with like Washburn and a couple of other people from chat, and it was a lot of freaking fun. So if you have not tried out the new Halo Infinite multiplayer mode, Attrition, go try it out. I had a blast. There's just really cool stakes knowing, okay, this is it, no more lives, don't die. Like you have to clutch the hell up right here. It's really fun.
Andy, now it's time for kindafunny.com/you're-wrong, where you write in and let us know what we got wrong as we got it wrong so we can correct it for those watching later on youtube.com/kindafunnygames and listening later on podcast services around the globe. Nana writes in and says, Bless, you said PlayStation shares, but it's Sony shares. That's technically you're right. You're right. You know what I meant, but you're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you for that. You're wrong. And then Nano also writes in and says, Jeff Grubb said Electronic Arts, but per a certified news source, it's EA's Electric Arts.
Mm-hmm.
Very good thing to note there.
Electric Art. It's in the game.
Electric Arts. Big.
Electric Arts Sports.
Andy, it's been a great episode of KFGD, but we're coming to an end, which means I should tell everybody about tomorrow's hosts. They are Greg and Tim, so look forward to that. If you're watching this live right now on Twitch, after this is Mike and Greg playing some Rainbow Six Extraction. If you want to catch that stream later, you can subscribe to youtube.com/kindafunnyplays. Remember, this has been Kinda Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday live right here on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. We have a Patreon post show for those that are subbed at the silver level, patreon.com/kindafunnygames. So we'll be playing some Loodle over there. Gary Whitta's new game. So stick around for that. Otherwise, until next time, Game Daily.